We're going to learn how to do some geometry just to set up a mandala. First of all, you're going to need a ruler. You're going to need a strip of poster board. This is a pretty thick piece of paper. You're going to need a thumbtack, and this is a pencil that I also use to make the holes bigger and to make my circles. I've got a Sharpie so y'all can see in the video. Normally I would use pencil, but today I'm going to use Sharpie so that you can see it clearly in the video. And I've also got a yardstick. My paper is 18 inches by 18 inches with a border around it. It's actually 17 by 17 inside the border. I have another video, by the way, on how to do the border. Watch that video if you haven't done the border already. To find the middle, I'm going to connect this corner to this corner. And by the way, guys, there's only two of them. You can always put the ruler on both of those corners. So if you look at it and for some reason they don't line up, it's not the paper or the ruler, it's you. Basically, you just want to draw a line from this side to this corner, from this corner to this corner. And then you're going to turn it and you can do this corner to this corner. This will show you right where the middle is. Once you have found the center, you can erase the lines. If I was dividing my paper into fourths or into eighths or into sixteenths, these lines would be good to have. I'm going to divide my paper into sixths or thirds or 12s, 12 sections. So I've got the center. Make it a little bit darker, that won't hurt. I'm going to use this as a compass. So every one of these holes is a certain distance from the very first hole, and that distance is the radius. So I'm going to put this thumbtack through the center of the circle. I'm going to put the thumbtack on the center of my paper. Now, this is the center of the paper. Each one of these holes represents the radius of a circle. And I can put my ruler on it, I can measure them, I can put a hole at 1 inch, I can put a hole at 2 inches, I can put it 2.5 if I want to. I just mark wherever I want. For this, I'm actually going to do one at 4 inches, so I'm going to put a little mark right there. And I'm going to do another one at 8 inches, so I'm going to put a little mark right there. Take this up. Take my thumbtack and I'm going to put a hole right there at the mark that I made for 4 inches. I'm also going to mark it 4 inches. That way I don't forget. And I'm going to mark this one at 8 inches. Okay, so my first circle is going to be, so I'm putting the thumbtack through the hole of the piece of paper. The very first one, I circled that one so I wouldn't forget. This is the first hole, and I'm going to put the thumbtack point right in the middle of the paper. Then I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to put it in the 4-inch hole, and I'm going to draw a circle with a 4-inch radius. Voila. I'm also going to go out here and do one at 8 inches. There we go. Now I have 2 concentric circles at 4 inches and 8 inches. I'm going to divide this into 6 sections. In order to do that, I'm going to use the radius. My radius was 4 inches. And so I'm going to make a mark. I'm just going to put totally randomly, but right down here at the bottom. It can be anywhere. The very first mark can be pretty much anywhere. But then I'm going to put the center of my circle right here on that dot. Then I'm going to put a mark, put my pen inside the 4. Now I don't want to make I don't want to make this real messy, so I'm just going to put a line right there that bisects that circle. That gives me a point. Then I'm going to put my thumbtack in that point and put another point at 4 inches on the circle. Now I've got 3 points altogether. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to move this right along, put it in that new point, and put a mark at 4 inches. Put my pin right there in that point, and put a mark at 4 inches. Put my thumbtack on that point right there, and put a mark at 4 inches. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks equally distributed. I'm going to put my ruler on that point, the center point, and on one of these points. And I'm going to draw all the way through my circles. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to the edge of the paper. Now I'm going to put it on this point and that point and go straight through to there. This is really good if you want to do a color wheel. We've used this to do a color wheel before. Used it to do mandalas, color wheels, radial design projects. There we go. Now I've divided it up into 6 parts, and I'm ready to do a mandala. And I want to divide it up into 12. So right now it's divided up into 6 sections. I want to divide it up into 12. All right. This is a little bit more complex. I'm going to start with a pencil. I'm going to put my thumbtack in that hole, and I'm going to put it on one of the points. I'm then going to just take a 4-inch hole again, and I'm going to create just a little bit of a circle like that. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing. This little bit of a circle that I'm making is visually somewhere in the middle of this section between here and here. Do it again. And it's created another point right there. That point is, guess what? The center of this piece of pie. If I wanted to cut this piece of pie in half, this is the center of it. I'm going to take my ruler, put it on center point, and my new bisection. Draw a line. I'm going to do this with my Sharpie like I did before. There we go. Now I have divided that. Now if you divide 6 sections in half, you're going to end up with 12 sections. But this time it's going to be a little bit easier. All I have to do, this is the circle that I divided up a minute ago. So I'm going to continue to divide the circle up. And when I did it a minute ago, I used the 4-inch radius. So I'm going to use the 4-inch radius again. Put my tack on that point and put a little mark. And put a mark on the 4. And put a mark on the 4. Mark on the 4. And put a mark at the 4. The more you divide this up, the more accurate you can get your mandala. You'll have plenty of structure, plenty of grid lines in order to create your mandala. I now have a pie divided up into 12 slices. I can put some other concentric circles in here, and I can do those randomly in order to set up my mandala. I'll go ahead and do a couple of those. At this point, it doesn't really matter. The 4 inches and the 8 inches doesn't really matter. In fact, the 8 inches doesn't really matter. You don't even have to use 4 inches. As long as you use the radius of your circle to make the dividing sections, but I'm going to put a couple of extra concentric circles in here. And the more of these that you put on here, the more structured your mandala can be. But if you've watched my previous videos, I used this sort of method to come to this product. So that's it. Good luck. Go subdivide a circle.